The two highest costs in running a restaurant are labour costs and food costs. Now, food costs can be controlled to a certain extent, as I've outlined in various videos beforehand, but labour cost is a bit more complex, mainly because you've got a certain amount of permanents working for you, and possibly casuals to fill in the gaps. Let's give you an example. Typical restaurant, say doing $20,000 a week, you may have $5,000 a week for permanents and $1,000 for casuals. So your $5,000 is 25% of your turnover, and the $1,000 is 5% of turnover. That makes 30%. On the other hand, have a few bad weeks, say your turnover drops from $20,000 to $15,000, you've still got to hire the same permanents, which costs you $5,000. That turns out to be around 33%, without taking into account any possible casuals you may have to utilise that week. So when you think about the average restaurant profit between 5 and 10%, 2, 3, 4, 5% saving is a major saving over a whole year. How do we go about working out how do we control our labour costs? In order to do this, we need to do a job analysis. Okay. So we have to ask ourselves these questions. What is a total labour cost as a percentage of sales? Now, this varies between, say, the very high 20s all the way up to the low 40s. The 20s for the fast food type of places, the quick service, 40% plus, occasionally high 30s is mainly for the upmarket restaurants. May also have silver service or Gueridon service or something like that. So that can be significant. How does labour costs vary by shift or day of the week? There may be weekend penalties or working late nights, which means extra hours. What is a labour cost breakdown by the sections? Maybe the kitchen and the front of house operations, the waiting staff and the cooking staff. Is it necessary to have time lags between tasks? What is the average hourly rate for each position? How much overtime is being paid? And is it necessary? Are we supervising our staff properly? Can we do all the work in the allocated hours for permanent staff without resorting to using casuals? You have to analyse this. What is a turnover and how does it impact our labour costs? If you've got high turnover, it means we've got to train more staff, time, money. They're usually a bit slower to start off with. They've got to utilise more hours, wasting time. Whereas if you've got experienced staff, they know what they're doing, they're trained in the job, and our costs are lower. All cause of that. They're more efficient, basically. Are there any seasonal fluctuations in labour costs? For example, the holiday periods, might have penalty rates or that sort of thing. So it costs you more money to run the restaurant in a holiday time or peak season situation where there are extra wages to be paid through penalties. Why is a job being done? Is it necessary? Can you leave it for another time? Why by this category of employee? For example, if you're busy and the kitchen hand is busy, the waiting staff is quiet, why can't some of the waiting staff work in the kitchen for a couple of hours to make up the time instead of paying another casual to work as a kitchen hand? Can this job be done during a slack period other than the busy period? For example, polishing crockery, cutlery, glassware and silverware. For example, polishing cutlery, glassware, tidying up, putting things back into place. We've done it in a quiet period rather than busy period. Is each step necessary? Can things be avoided? Why are the job steps carried out in this sequence? Is there a way we can change the sequence to make it more efficient? Can we miss a stage? How do sales per labour hour compare across different shifts of employees? Is it costing us less for dinner and for lunch, for breakfast? May do a whole analysis on the whole restaurant. It may not be worthwhile running the restaurant for dinner or certain lunch times during the week. Look at how your sales pan out with the labour costs. Maintain good labour cost ratios. What is the ratio of full-time to part-time employees? And how does this affect costs? Can we utilise more casuals? Casuals tend to cost more per hour because they've got incorporate all the other penalties and whatever in their pay packet, whereas casuals get less overall. But maybe you can utilise more permanents if it's cheaper that way. If your sales are consistent, work it out, do your analysis. Look if there are any inefficiencies in scheduling that can lead to overstaffing or understaffing. It's good to cut back on your labour costs. You're in a situation where you're busy and you haven't got enough staff to look after the restaurant. Loss of service, customers get upset. You may lose customers. Is one employee using a better method than other employees? Can the others adapt? Have a look around. Talk to employees. They're doing the job. They're in the trenches working. If there's an easy way to do it, encourage them to talk to you about it. Train your staff to use that method. Every little bit counts. Can travel distances be shortened? Is the restaurant designed in a way which eliminates bottleneck situations? There's a short gap between stations or kitchen to serving area to the kitchen area. Analyse them. A few seconds here and there all adds up over a whole shift. So check. Do station locations minimise employee movement? Are there defined stations for locations of work supplies? For example, your cleaning items or your cutlery or glassware. Is it all over the place or is it in a set location? So it's easy to replenish, to get the workflow right. So you don't have to be running around trying to find things when you need to do it in the quiet times to make sure that they don't waste time so that when the busy time comes, they're ready to serve the customers. So ensure that these workstations are well designed. Think about how you work it. What is the cost of employee benefits and how does it affect labour expenses? For example, extra shifts may require extra break. It may be some sort of penalty rate for working extra hours or a cost for a meal or something else which is extra cost. Look for it, identify it and see if you can work another way. Are there any training costs that significantly impact labour expenses? Now, training is essential. Sometimes not training your staff properly costs you more money than if you do train them. In fact, most times it would cost you money because staff are inefficient. Train them right in the way you want them to work, to be more efficient. Put the resources in there. Say, sharpen the saw. So, how do labour costs correlate with customer satisfaction and service quality? For example, having an extra staff member on to have extra service, does it make your customer more satisfied? Does it encourage them to spend more money, to come more often? So there's a cost-benefit situation. People come to your restaurant for an experience, and you give them the experience they're expecting. If you don't give it to them, they won't come back. Give it to them, they'll be happy and come to you over and over again. Are there opportunities for cross-training to improve labour efficiency? For example, maybe inexperience in a certain part of the job. Maybe they might not be experienced in the morning shift, which entails breakfast and lunch, or dinner and lunch, whatever it may be. Cross-train them so that, for example, you may have a staff member off sick who works on a night shift. If you've trained your staff morning shift person, may be able to do that job. Save you employing other casuals or training other staff to do it. So they're adaptable to the situation, more efficient. Maybe change the shifts around, start them earlier, start them later, or whatever it may be, to fit in the way you want them to work and be more efficient, to cut your costs down. Next item is a job description. It's important that you have a description. Unfortunately, most restaurants don't have it. You get a new employee, they come into work, you tell them, okay, well, you've got to set up when you come in and keep the place tidy, and you serve, and you clear the plates basically this way, and you clean up that way. And what happens? They're adapting to situations and other jobs they've had, which is different to your expectations, and they're not efficient in some areas. So if there's a job description, they know what they have to do. And if they don't do it, it helps you when things get tough and you may a situation where you're thinking about letting them go, and legal complications. They can easily say, well, I wasn't supposed to do that job. It wasn't my job to do. So be very clear. This is your job. Your job as a waitress or waiter. You come into work in the morning, you polish the cutlery and glassware, you set up the tables, you check the bookings, the table settings are right, you check on the specials of the day, make sure you've got enough condiments, etc., etc., etc. Yeah, if you miss one step and you find out halfway through the shift the salt and pepper shakers are empty, not only do customers get upset because they've got no salt and pepper for their meals, your staff taking up time refilling them, they should be serving the customer, and consequently service standards deteriorate. That's an example. So it's important to have a job description. Then you have a task procedure, a defined task. When you come in, you do this. This is the way you do it. You polish your cutlery this way. You polish the glassware this way. You set up your station this way. This is a process of taking the orders from the customers and going to the kitchen, etc., etc., etc. So there's a process, a procedure, which is in line with your restaurant standards. And no surprises. So the same procedures are followed all the time. It's like the McDonald's system. I go back again. They follow the same sequence. Every time you go in there, you get the same type of meal. People are coming into your restaurant for an experience. They've got expectations of that experience. Have everything documented to ensure your staff are trained the right way and the customer gets the experience they pay for. Failure to do dissatisfaction, increased labour costs, loss of good staff, etc., etc., etc. So look at your labour costs. How has it been fluctuating? Can you look at ways of cutting costs down? Like I said before, every percentage counts. Of course, restaurants work on very fine margins. How are you controlling your labour costs? I'd like to hear. And subscribe to this channel for more videos like this.